The appointment of Jacinta Price to Government Efficiency. What's behind this, and will she be on the Expenditure Review Committee?
Well, I think there's a good case for her to be on the Expenditure Review Committee. I haven't made a final decision in relation to who will be on that. Normally the composition would be the finance portfolios and somebody from one of the biggest spending portfolios, normally health or education. But Jacinta would be central to the budget process, so it would make sense for her to be part of the ERC.
Why her for that job?
Because I think she's got a real practical understanding of what's happening in the real world, and you need somebody who has that ability to communicate, to connect with people, to understand the rights and the wrongs that are happening in the marketplace, in the business sector. And I think Jacinta has a broader set of skills than people understand. And as she demonstrated during the course of The Voice, she has a great ability to communicate and to connect with Australians and to understand what's happening in their lives.
But she wouldn't have a department like in America.
No, my proposal is that, and our position would be, that would be contained within the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, because it allows you a whole of government perspective of expenditure and policy and programming commitments that you would need to make.
What's your personal view of Anthony Albanese?
Anthony and I have spoken publicly about this, both of us, that we have an easy relationship. We can talk about issues. He's generously invited me into his office on a number of occasions where we've been able to talk about issues that are important to the country, national security issues, and issues that require bipartisan support, including changes around the NDIS and aged care. I was very definite when we came into opposition that we would be an opposition akin to John Howard's opposition to the Hawke-Keating government, and I did that because there's a period for opposition. There's also a period for supporting policy which is in our country's best interests, and we've done that. And we've also driven much of the policy agenda over the course of the last couple of years from opposition, and that's been an important feature of our time, as well as the unity that we've had within our ranks.
Is there more cutting to be done to the NDIS?
If there's corruption, if there's waste, then it's going to detract from the ability to help those who are most in need, that is the profoundly disabled. And I've been a strong supporter of the NDIS for that reason, particularly for ageing parents who have got disabled children and are worried about what will happen to their adult children when they pass. And that peace of mind is something that's really important and something that can be provided through the NDIS. So if there's corruption and there's misappropriation and the money's not being spent effectively, then the scheme will topple and those who are most in need will miss out. And I'm not going to tolerate that. But we don't have any plans for cutting the NDIS. The government's given us assurances that the money's being spent appropriately, but in the next breath they then say that there are a number of criminal investigations underway. So if you receive advice in government, and obviously we don't receive that security advice from the police in opposition, and they say that there's a particular loophole being exploited and tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars are being ripped out of Australian taxpayers' pockets, then you would expect us to respond to, to that policy failure.
Just finally, if you do become Prime Minister, you see Donald Trump come into office immediately, do a whole bunch of things. Tony Abbott probably did Operation Sovereign Borders pretty immediately. Is there any one or two things that stand to mind that you want to get cracking on immediately if you become Prime Minister?
Cost of living immediately. We've got to provide support to families. Families are going under at the moment. People are barely keeping their head above water, and there are a lot of small businesses, 27,000 of them have gone broke over the last 2.5 years under this government's watch, and we've got to get our economy back on track. We need to make sure that we can secure our borders, and we need to make sure that we can keep people safe in their own homes and in communities. And there will be a number of priorities that are reflected, given the commitments that we'll make to the public otherwise between now and election day, and we'll live up to the promises that we've made to the Australian public, and I take that responsibility very seriously. I've served under 4 Prime Ministers and I've watched 3 on the other side. I intend to govern for our country in a way that will help people, not hurt them. And we've got a big mess, as John Howard did after Keating's period, that will need to be cleaned up. And the economy and helping on the family, helping families with their budgets, helping the housing crisis to resolution. All of that will be priorities for our government.
And are you expecting a budget before the election?
I don't think there'll be a budget before the election. I think the election's imminent, and I think the Prime Minister realises that people have stopped listening, and that they realise that that this government is going from bad to worse, and they can make all sorts of promises, they can run all sorts of scare campaigns over the course of the next couple of months or weeks, whatever it might be. I think Australians are too smart for that. They realise that this government started with promise, and they've finished in a pretty in a state of disrepair, would be a polite way to put it. I think this government is running on 3 flat tyres at the moment, and if they're re-elected in a minority with the Greens, then the pain that Australians have felt over the course of the last 3 years will be nothing compared to what's over the next 3 years and beyond that. So I think if there is a second term of the Albanese government, there will be baked in decisions that will take a generation to undo, and I just don't think families can afford 3 more years of Anthony Albanese.
Peter Dutton, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you.